For a punch needle project, you will need a punch needle with threaders, thread, a small wooden hoop, and fabric printed or drawn with your design. Step 1. Separate the two pieces of your hoop and sandwich your fabric between them, making sure to center your design. Lightly tighten the hoop screw while pulling on the corners of the fabric to make sure it is stretched as tight as a drum. Once you've done that, finish tightening the hoop screw. Thread the long threader tool that came with your punch needle through the punch needle, starting at the sharp end and ending at the top. There will be a small metal loop sticking out. Thread your embroidery floss through the small metal loop at the top of the needle threader. Pull all the way through, and then you will see a small hole on the sharp end of the punch needle. Re-thread the threader through that hole and pull the embroidery floss all the way through. Make sure that you leave about a 1 to 2 inch tail. Then you can start punch needling. Punch the needle through the fabric on your design. Turn over your work and pull the tail through the back of the project, making sure once again to leave about a 1 to 2 inch tail. At this point, you will be able to pull the needle back through your work, keeping it as close to the fabric as possible, moving forward slightly and then punching forward again. Make sure that you always keep the needle opening facing the way that the needle is moving. Continue your project like this. Punch the needle through, pull it back up slightly to the top of the fabric, and then move slightly forward and punch through again. Always making sure to keep that needle opening, heading the direction your needle is going. If you turn your project over, you will see that small loops are forming on the back of your fabric. If your thread is too tight or getting caught on your punch needle, these little loops will not form and the front of your work will not hold. If your thread is not staying in place when you punch and the loops are not forming on the back of your work, this is likely because your embroidery floss is not flowing freely through the punch needle. This could be for a couple reasons. First, it's likely that your embroidery floss is getting caught somewhere before it hits the punch needle. Second, it could be in the punch needle itself. Sometimes there are little nubs or rough spots along the inside of the punch needle that catch the embroidery floss. If you've already made sure that your embroidery floss is not getting stuck somewhere before it gets to your punch needle, you'll need to run your embroidery floss through the punch needle back and forth, almost like a sander, a few times to catch and kind of grind down any little pieces that may be getting caught. In this video, you'll see that when I go from one segment of the pattern to the next, I pinch my fingers around the tip of the punch needle before I pull it back through to create slack, so I can then head to the next pattern segment without cutting my thread. If you prefer, you can pull the needle out and cut the thread. In this video, you'll see that when I go from one segment of the pattern to the next, I pinch my fingers around the tip of the punch needle before I pull it back through to create slack, so I can then head to the next pattern segment without cutting my thread. If you prefer, you can pull the needle out and cut the thread. All the segments of a single color, you can pull it out of the punch needle and then re-thread using your next color using the same technique as before. I'm using this cute knit color for the center of my daisy. Once again, thread the needle with your long threader through the pointy end of your punch needle. Make sure that you pull the thread through the small hole at the tip of the punch needle. Continue around the pattern as before, making sure you keep the thread loose and free-flowing. I'll be using a black thread to outline this project. In this video, you'll see that I've turned my work over, so the side with the loops is now on the front of the work. Carefully punch around the loops that you've made, being careful not to punch them back through the fabric, as this can unravel your work. Once you're done, your project should look something like this. Now that it's all done, you can use glue to secure your project. What was once the front of your work is where you will add glue. You can use Elmer's glue, tacky glue, hot glue, whatever you would like. My favorite thing to do with my punch needle projects is make them into patches. So I secure the back with hot glue. That way, if I want to use them on a jacket or a hat or a bag, all I have to do is reheat the glue and adhere it to my project. If you need any help with troubleshooting or have any questions about this project, find me on Instagram. My link is in the bio.